Hi everyone, and welcome back to Shred and Soul.
I'm Shred, aka Kevin Wood.
And I'm Soul, aka Wind Hughes. Today we're going to probably just ramble on about a bunch of health-related, food-related issues. Then some of this came upon because I've been frustrated with the quality of vegetables that we buy. And we do a lot of our vegetable shopping at Whole Foods organic section, or occasionally the organic section at Safeway, which is pretty good in our area. And one of the things I noticed was that the food was tasting funny after a while. And I started to research this and realized that Whole Foods, plus many other grocery stores, started using something called A-Peel. And this is something that they put on the outside of vegetables when they harvest them, I believe. It's an air barrier so that vegetables can be picked closer to ripening and then sit on the shelf somewhere for a long period of time before they ever reach the customer.
So it increases the shelf life.
Yeah, and it keeps them protected so that they can ripen more naturally, supposedly.
But it tastes like shit.
Well, I noticed that a lot of the food, like bananas, for instance, I eat a banana a day, and I noticed that the texture was strange. And we get non-GMO food for the most part, and assuming we can read and discover what the nature of the food is and identify it. So non-GMO organic, and it was tasting mealy and funny. And I would compare this with friends and our son, and so A-Peel.
Does it make the actual vegetable taste different? Because I've had a problem with apples. I don't even buy them anymore. They're horrible, and they just don't taste good.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things they do. They put A-Peel, which is capital A-P-E-E-L, is the brand, and it's something that's a little controversial. Some people will say it's absolutely safe because it's derived from plants, and that's why they can put it on organic food. Other people will say no. That even something that's natural can be toxic. For example, arsenic, or oxalic acid. Rhubarb has a lot of oxalic acid. And if you want to clean your sink, put a bunch of rhubarb in the sink and it'll whiten it up. But in large amounts, these things can be really harmful. So A-Peel is something that prompted this conversation when I was complaining about the textures of certain vegetables. Watermelon. And actually, you can see this on YouTube a lot. People showing you their watermelon, apples, fruits that have a very bizarre texture to them. And I have discovered that as well as our family members, and we've talked about it.
Wow. That really makes sense because I've been unhappy with watermelons too. And so this encasement, this sealant that they put on the vegetables, it affects the overall quality of the vegetable. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, I don't know for sure what it does. And the research is out still, other than some research says it affects the quality of the food. I don't know if something else is happening to the vegetables or the fruits, even if they're organic. And they say they're non-GMO, which means they're not genetically modified.
Well, I think organic, non-GMO, whatever, it can still sit on a shelf or be in transit from wherever in the globe it comes from for a very long time.
Yeah. And most folks don't know a lot about this. And we dig into this, especially before an episode. We want to make sure we have some information that's not just our opinion, but derived from some research we read or research summaries. And A-Peel, at least on the Whole Foods products, has a 6 before the number on the label. You'll see a number 6. That means it's been treated with A-Peel. It doesn't say A-Peel on most of these things, but on the little label for example, on an apple, the first number will be a number 6. So look at your vegetables and maybe start asking your grocers and do your own dive into this product.
Look for that. I had no idea. I had no idea about this A-Peel. I remember hearing about a coating, and I thought, well, of course, for ages you've been instructed to wash your vegetables or your fruit. But I never did, but I'm starting to now.
You didn't?
No.
Wow. You don't wash the vegetables that we have when you use them?
Hardly ever. Well, no, I do now.
You better say
of recent years, yes.
Reel that one back.
Started to. But yeah, I never did before.
Well, and you look at what's on the food, pesticides.
You know, I would take the apple and wipe it on my shirt.
Well, they have something they put on. Some of the products are called Shine, some of them are called other things. So when you look at an apple or other fruit and they're shiny, they're actually coated in a wax or a paraffin.
Wax.
And would you eat your candles even if they're paraffin?
Beeswax?
No, they're paraffin or another wax.
Which is an oil-based wax. I can see how that could be toxic.
Yeah, and so our vegetables not only are shiny, but coated with a peel, let alone if they're not organic. And we'll talk about this in a bit, what else might be in our food and some of our products as well.
Yeah.
What did you find? You were looking into some specific things.
Glyphosate.
Ah.
One of the active ingredients in Roundup. It's in everything. It's crazy. It's every vegetable. It has the potential to carry some of this, and it's been linked to various maladies. But when you look for some articles online, you get a lot of information that says probably causes, might be linked, and then the EPA says it's completely safe.
Well, you have to look too on the research. Who funded that research? Was it the chemical? Monsanto funded a lot of the research.
You don't know where this information's coming from.
When you look at the research, you'll see who funded it.
It's something that you can't taste in the food. It could be potentially harmful. It's a pesticide.
And it's legal here.
It's legal here. In Europe, it's absolutely banned. Other countries as well. But yeah, we still use it, and our EPA says it's safe.
Do you know what other countries ban it? Do you have an idea what countries do?
Well, Belgium, Austria, France, Germany. I have a little list here, just so you know I'm reading this. Netherlands. I stopped writing after a while. All I know is that a large portion of the world, well, around us, Europe and some Central American countries. I didn't see anything from the Far East. Maybe they don't even use it at all. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm aware that when they measure for levels of glyphosate in water, it's prevalent in our water or drinking water, in the water used to water our crops if they're not organic crops. Where else would you find it? It's in our skin. It's in our blood.
Well, it's because there's so much of it in everything. It's one of the most popular pesticides ever, I think.
Yeah, and it's linked extremely so to cancer. And then you look in areas where they spray it, the prevalence of cancer is statistically higher than average rates.
Well, I think that's an alarming statistic. But, like I said, when you try to look this stuff up, you see conflicting studies. Not to go into that too much, but it is interesting, though. That's the number one ingredient that they're complaining about. There's a lawsuit against the Girl Scouts for having this ingredient in their cookies. Now, I think it's a good way to possibly bring that particular ingredient, glyphosate, into general discussion because, the Girl Scout cookies have it in it. So practically everything else that you could eat. So,
if the Girl Scouts have it, I remember seeing that headline, and I thought, what are some of the things that people hold sacred that they trust? The Girl Scouts, the Boy Scouts, and if the Girl Scouts are selling their cookies, they must be good. I always got them. I haven't in a while because they're all gluten except for one. But yeah, when you think that all of the Girl Scout cookies, each flavor, had different levels of glyphosates and other metals and toxic substances. You can look it up. Do it yourself. Don't take anything we say as true.
And the one of the arguments about the heavy metals is that everything you eat has it in it as well, because of the fact that things come out of the ground and there are trace elements of heavy metals in the soil.
Well, there's a key word: trace.
Mm-hmm.
Trace levels of everything, but what they find are much larger levels of metals in our blood. It's one of the things I wrote down. You're looking for heavy metals. Everyone should be tested. That's my an opinion of, and we can jump later
But
to
you know,
what to do.
if you eat a Girl Scout cookie, you're not going to be contaminated. I mean, the amounts are still so minuscule. I mean, if Girl Scout cookies were your main source of nutrition, that's all you ate, and you ate a lot of them, so you have a huge appetite, and you just started eating Girl Scout cookies every single day.
Right,
You-
one cookie might not kill you, but think about this. It's
the
a
other things in the
cumulative
cookies
thing.
will probably kill you faster
What,
than
sugar,
the,
coloring?
yeah.
Yeah. And I have some lists of things.
Not to
I
say
wanna
that
read.
it's okay to have this stuff in our food.
But it's a
Um,
cumulative thing. So,
you
for
know-
example, follow us through a day. And I'll often do this when I talk to people about this and they think, it's no big deal. I only have one Girl Scout cookie, or So, follow ourselves through a day. We get up, and most people might brush their teeth first. So, you think of your toothpaste. What is in your toothpaste? Most people have no idea. Are there colorings? You ever see the striped Colgate toothpaste with different
Are
colorings?
the ones with the little speckles in them?
Yeah, like what is in there? Let alone the question about fluoride in general, which many countries ban as
Aquafresh.
well. Yeah.
Mhm.
So what is in the toothpaste? And then what is in the water that you're using on your toothbrush? And then what is in the soap that you might use
Hey, what's
to
your
wash your
toothbrush
face?
made of? And
What's your toothbrush made
how
of?
dirty is your toothbrush? Do you wash your toothbrush after you
Pour
use
peroxide on it.
it? Yeah,
But
not a
that's
lot of
up to
people do.
you. That's not a problem with the manufacturer.
But
That's
it
a
is.
problem with you if you
Yeah.
don't clean your toothbrush.
Exactly. Well,
Yeah. So,
it's all about awareness.
yeah.
Right?
And then you get up
I don't clean
and
my
you walk
toothbrush.
in and have coffee. That's what we do, right? We go have coffee. We get organic coffee. I'm very careful with our coffee. But if you don't, think of your coffee. It's full of pesticides. It's full of mold. Coffee is considered one of the worst things to have that's not organic. There are a few foods that are considered the worst. And then you have your coffee, and most people might put milk in their coffee. And I'll mention milk in a
Yeah.
bit about what's in milk.
I had read an article about oat milk, which
Yeah.
I
Oat milk
take
is
my
what I
coffee
have.
black because I want to like start out the day fresh, and but that can have there was an article about the trace heavy metals in
In oat
oat
milk.
milk because
Yeah.
of the processing.
Oat milk's not considered that healthy. That's what I use.
Mhm.
So yeah, you go from your toothpaste to your soap, and now your coffee. The coffee itself, if it's not organic, it's laden with pesticides and toxic chemicals, let alone heavy levels of mold. Most coffees have mold in them. Even some organic coffees have mold in them. And then the milk you put in it. And then the next thing might be cereals for someone.
Sweetener.
Sweetener, right? You're putting sugar in it and other sweeteners that might be toxic. I know monk fruit is a great alternative, but I can't remember what the additive is that they put in monk fruit that's been linked to cancer. And then you go from that to what? Maybe your cereal, your cereals, the milk in your cereal, people put sugar. And then you think of what do you do then? Maybe you clean the counters. What's in the cleaner?
Mhm.
What's in everything you are touching?
Everything.
And then your lunch, the breads, the meats if you eat meat, the cheeses, so we're going to talk about some of these things. So everything, when you think of everything you eat, you drink, you touch. I mean, it's crazy when you think about it. You touch, you inhale,
Yeah.
the water, the air, the chemtrails in the air. You start to get a little overwhelmed and feel
What
like you can't
about
breathe.
the invisible electronic waves, all of the
EMFs.
EMFs and
Yeah.
and microwaves and
Yeah.
communication signals that are
Yeah.
bouncing off us all the time?
Yeah, we're bombarded with toxicity and
EMFs, yeah, they're terrible for you, and we can't escape them. I mean, you can be hiding in your basement, and they're still going to get to you.
yeah. So let's look at. I want us to look at a couple of things. Should I start with meat or just go through banned foods?
Do you have
What's your inclination?
seed oils?
Seed oil's mentioned. How about? Do you want to start with seed oil? Let's talk about seed oil because it's in some of these things.
Okay, yeah. So I was reading about seed oils, and of course, I've seen a lot of articles about how we should be wary of seed oils. Seed oils are processed from seeds, basically, and so they need a lot of processing. They have to be treated with heat and possibly some bleaching and some sort of chemical solvent to get it out. But there's a lot of information saying that these things can be harmful to you.
Mhm.
Have you seen
Oh,
anything?
yeah, I've read a lot about it. Seed oils are considered very unhealthy. And again, you have to look at research with a critical eye. Who funded it? You could get Monsanto to fund a lab to run studies to show that glyphosates are healthy, and they will design the research to do that, or specifically utilize samples in a way to support the claims that they want made. So you have to look at who funded the research. And again, I'm not an expert in any of these things. I'm just a human that likes to dive into the information. And I suggest all of you do that too. So I'm going to read a list. It's 19, so it'll take me a minute, of foods that are banned, US foods that are made here that are banned in other parts of the world. So the first one on the list is Fruit Loops. I don't eat Fruit Loops, but many people eat Fruit Loops, and they are banned in France, Austria, Norway, Finland, and other parts of Europe because of the food dyes, mainly, that they have in them that have been shown to create cancer. And there's many studies indicating that these artificial colors also inhibit cell development. And hydrogenated coconut oil
Now,
and cottonseed oil.
hydrogenated oils are really bad for you.
So there's your soybean oils, hydrogenated coconut, and cottonseed oils. So Europe bans this, some of Europe.
That stuff was what was causing all the heart attacks from the 70s into the 80s, even into the 90s, before people started realizing, oh, it's the hydrogenated oils. It's not the eggs and the butter.
Yeah. The next thing is U.S. chicken is banned in all of Europe. Why? One of the reasons is that we use a chlorine wash to clean the chickens to potentially keep us safe from salmonella. So it's an antimicrobial treatment. And one of the things the health departments in Europe say is that it's questionable, not only because of the chlorine in the chicken, but because chicken should be processed and grown in a clean enough manner that we shouldn't have to chlorinate it to assure its safety. So our U.S. chicken cannot be used there.
Driving by a chicken plant, I've probably mentioned this before. It was one of the reasons why I just can't stomach it anymore. The odor coming out of this chicken factory, and then, seeing those chickens in these cages. And they're modified chickens, and it's just
Well, that's
it's pretty bad.
A cruelty to animal question.
Well,
in addition
and
to
what
are they being fed?
Question too. Like you said, we have to wash them in chlorine because they're being grown in these horribly contaminated environments.
Yeah. So another loved item is Mountain Dew. I remember drinking that when it first came out. I loved it. I certainly don't anymore. The European Union and Japan have banned it because of brominated vegetable oil and bromine. It's an element that's found in flame retardants. Let's see what else. That's linked to headaches, memory loss, impaired coordination, neurological problems. And there BVO, which is the bromine, was removed from Mountain Dew's list of ingredients after 2020.
Mountain Dew. I remember having Mountain Dew in the mid to late 60s. It came in a green bottle.
Yeah.
And there was some kind of hillbilly. The mascot was a hillbilly, drinking Mountain Dew. And I think he had a jug or something. I don't know. Reply in the comments if you can remember that far back. But that's too bad about Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew's on there. Well, so is Coca-Cola and Pepsi and some.
Coke Mountain Dew could never reach Coke's status as being a good beverage. But
all right, so here we go with milk. You mentioned milk. U.S. milk is banned in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and Japan, and in the European nation. That's a lot of the world. And why? Because we feed our dairy cows with synthetic man-made growth hormone, BGH, to increase milk production. Is developed by the Agricultural Biotech Corporation, here we go, Monsanto. bovine growth hormone, BGH, or also known as BST. It was approved in the food here, 1993. It's drinking hormone enriched milk is not a healthy option. And some people say that our meats and our milk, dairy products, and other things that have human hormone in them might be responsible for why puberty now occurs so early in
that would make a
adolescence.
lot of sense.
Yeah,
wouldn't
that
it?
it's the hormones that are
Mhm.
that are injected in our foods and put in our foods.
Yeah.
They also were known to create other types of problems like cancer and breast cancer. So that's just some of the things. That's
Mhm.
milk. Not to mention a lot of milk has sugar added in it.
Now, is this only non-organic milk? Does organic milk have any sort of
Organic
protection?
milk does not have all of this in it. And it'll
Mhm.
say no antibiotics, no human growth hormone, things like that. Yeah, organic milk's different.
Okay.
It's also really expensive. Another thing is farm salmon. U.S. farmed salmon is banned in Australia and New Zealand, and I believe some other European countries as well. And it has to do with some of the stuff that's in the salmon food.
The food.
The treatment of them is considered really bad, the way they are treated,
You
but
know,
also the
that-
cages are small and they're fed processed fish food, which has
Mhm.
dangerous chemicals like methyl mercury and dioxins, and they're given a lot of antibiotics and other drugs that are not safe for humans.
Yeah.
This is the salmon most people
You
buy in
know,
the store.
It seemed like such a great idea. I mean, growing
Yeah.
salmon in a pen, but the
Yeah.
pitfalls are just what you said. All of the
Yeah.
additives to make these fish last longer and possibly grow bigger
Yeah.
and faster,
Yeah.
and the food that they give them. I heard that that was probably the main thing that made that particular item something to be wary of.
Well, and then you also look at organic, wild, caught salmon, and remember, Justin showed us the pictures, the video of them pulling the worms
Mhm.
out of the salmon that they actually bought at Whole Foods, wild organic salmon.
Yeah.
It was riddled with worms. That was just disgusting to watch. So you think of
now,
that.
how fresh off the boat was that? Because a worm can appear in an animal.
These are
I mean,
parasites that most wild caught fish, when they're caught and immediately checked, are shown to have parasites.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's what they have naturally in them.
Right.
It's not because they.
But what you
Hung
can't see
around a
is
warehouse.
the mercury.
Yeah. Well, they test for it, mercury levels,
Mm.
and the highest levels came in the farmed salmon.
Mm.
The other thing is maraschino cherries. I have quite a bit here to go through. Those for the same thing you would imagine. Red food dye is used, and cancer-causing agents that are shown to create migraines, allergies, and mental disorders in children.
Now, when you're getting maraschino cherry, spare no expense. Buy the Luxardo maraschino cherries. They come from Italy. I'm sure they're safe.
Do they
But
have
they
dye
are
in
the
them? Do you
best.
know? Before you start saying they're safe.
Well,
We've had them.
Italy banned the dye,
The
right?
dye, that's right.
So,
So, banned red dye, so maybe they're safer.
Put two and two together. Those Luxardo cherries are great.
Yeah. And then Little Debbie Swiss rolls, which I don't eat, they're banned in some of Europe. And same thing, carcinogenic stuff in it and dyes. U.S. breakfast cereal brands. Rice Krispies, Honey Bunches of Oats, and Frosted Flakes, plus others, are banned in Japan and the European Union because they have butylated hydrotoluene, or BHT, and it's a flavor enhancer, and other carcinogenic items, preservatives. Some of these things go in other processed foods, such as chewing gum, frozen foods, contain these chemicals. So the cereals we give our children, if they're not organic, which is very expensive. We've bought organic cereal, and it might last us 2 mornings, and the entire box is gone. And it was very expensive.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but we don't eat cereal a lot.
No, I never eat cereal. Every now and then we enjoy some, that keto. We have some keto Fruit Loops that we get sometimes, and we eat those in the middle of the night.
And they have natural coloring, like beeches.
Yeah.
And another thing is instant mashed potatoes, banned in Europe, Japan, Australia. Why? There's wax in the food packaging. There's a preservative that's found in rubber and wax, hydrocloxanisol, BHA. these are hard to say. BHA, to be short, is found in European Union, Japan, Australia, banned instant mashed potatoes. How about ground beef banned in Europe? This is all U.S. products. Ground beef banned in European Union. Why? It has something called pink slime in it, which is something they do as flavor enhancer to add coloring. It's filler in ground beef to reduce fat content. It's called pink slime. It's prepared with ammonia gas and antimicrobial agent, which is dangerous for consumption. So they don't buy our beef there.
Wow.
Ritz
I can see
crackers.
why.
Yeah, Ritz crackers.
Oh,
Again,
Ritz crackers.
same kind of stuff.
Those have always been bad for you.
Yeah, it has cottonseed oil, trans fats associated with certain problems.
Well, they are delicious. I don't want the Ritz cracker people.
But they have
to get
organic brands,
offended.
certain other ones that are
Yeah.
good.
Well, Ritz.
And then coffee. Coffee mate, excuse me. We already talked about the coffee. Coffee mate, banned in Australia, Hungary, most
Yeah.
Scandinavian
Well,
countries because it has stabilizers and carcinogenic chemicals as well as hydrogenated soybean oils and other oils. Certain ice creams are banned in Europe. Skittles are banned in Europe. Just a few
Skittles
more.
because of the
Coloring.
colorings.
Titanium dioxide is used to brighten the color.
Huh. Maybe that's what gave Marchand all of his speed.
All his speed. Hawaiian
Titanium.
papayas are banned in Europe because they're genetically engineered and there's certain chemicals that are used with them. Arby's sourdough breads, croissants, French toast are similar whitening agents that are found in them. Stovetop stuffing is banned in Europe, Japan, and United Kingdom because of BHA.
Well,
And
stovetop
list goes
stuffing,
on.
right? Well,
Yeah.
they don't celebrate Thanksgiving. I'm just trying to be funny.
let's cut here. We will cut that out. That's not a. All right. So, yeah, you could see that many foods, and there were other ones banned. Want to add anything before I go through some of the chemicals, found in milk? Found in meat?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So when meat is cooked at high temperatures, certain chemicals like hydroxylic amine, HCAs, are formed. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, PAHs, which all can be harmful and carcinogenic. This is when you heat meat, and why sometimes people will say don't barbecue and char your meat, that it creates carcinogenic chemicals.
Mm.
So here are some of the things that are formed during cooking in meat. Heterocyclic amines, HCAs, they're formed when amino acids and sugars and creatine, which are found in muscle, react to temperatures. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, they're formed when meat hits onto a hot surface and open fires. Nitrosa compounds are formed when a chemical in red meat called HAM is broken down in the gut and can damage cells in the bowel, which can lead to bowel cancer. Nitrates and nitrites, which are often found in things like bacon and sliced deli meats. Butylate hydroanasa, BHA, and BHT again. These are preservative in meats that are in sausage, pepperoni, and dried meats. Sodium nitrate is used to preserve and stabilize color in processed and cured meats, poultry products, carcinogenic as well. A lot of these are when the heat is created. It causes DNA damage and other health issues. So these are meats. So what do we do? Well, how do we deal with this? The stuff in the air. And
well, our
we stop
lifestyle,
eating?
our lifestyle choices have given us a little bit of a buffer for these hazards. We're both vegetarians. Although I have eaten meat, we accidentally ordered some skewers at a Greek restaurant. I didn't want the animals' lives to go in vain, so I ate the skewers.
Well, we do. I think it comes down to us making choices. And before that, even, do your due diligence and look into some of the research on chemicals in foods. What's in the foods? What are the arguments, pro and con?
It's fascinating, actually, that when you start looking into this, you're going to wade through a lot of articles that will have conflicting information. So,
for sure.
But most of them, most of the articles you'll see are about the hazards of these
Yeah.
particular ingredients.
Yeah, you
Most of
can't
them.
argue the ingredients. And one of the things I think that's helpful too is to pick certain ingredients in foods. And in addition to saying, is bacon harmful? Look at some of the things listed on a package of bacon and go straight to the research about that chemical compound, and you'll find very different information. So, eating organically helps, though it's very expensive. Growing food, if you possibly can, is really helpful. And I know we get very selective about what we buy to help us afford more organic foods.
Well, you're also gluten sensitive.
Yeah, so we don't eat gluten and grains. I do know that grains, and people will say because of the glyphosate and other things in grains, it's not just gluten causing the issue. Grains I have a reaction to
Yeah, I think
well.
a processed grain, any kind of processed grain, it elevates your blood sugar as well if you eat too much of it.
Yeah. Look at the label. If you can't pronounce some of the things, just as I had some trouble, it's probably not good for you. Look at your soaps. Most folks do not even think of their shampoo and their soaps and their hand creams, the chemicals they use. And when you think about it, one of those things by itself is like, it's no big deal. I like that cleaner. But when you start thinking of it and think through your day and think through when I get up, I touch this, I use the toothpaste, I use this mouthwash, I go and have the coffee, then I put this in my coffee, and then after that I clean the counters, and then after that I XYZ, and then at night I sit down and maybe have a piece of candy or cake, or I sit down and have whatever. You're painting, you're doing a variety of things, you're pumping gas in the car. Think of it throughout a day and what is in every one of those things you touched or were exposed to or consumed. And that's when it becomes important to start making some choices.
Yeah. If you were to keep a journal of everything that you ate, even a little snack, a little bit of this or that.
There's Shiloh, our neighbor's dog, who joins us sometimes.
You would probably be amazed and then look at the the overall content of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes we think it's just easier not to eat at all.
Not to breathe the air with what's in our air. They find heavy metals in our air samples, aluminum. There are areas where they test these soil samples and they're toxic. So there's a lot to look at. But I think it started with us having the moment of humor. What are we not supposed to eat or breathe? We have to make choices. So number one is go just dig a little bit and start making some conscious choices in front of us. We can't necessarily shut down the corporations or shut down the food production today. We can make choices to support that. But in our moment-to-moment life, we have to make choices about what we do, what we drink, and what we eat. And that we can do. That's right in front of us. We can do that.
And don't forget your microsphere that lives inside of you.
Your gut.
Your gut.
But, yeah, the gut health is really important.
It starts here and it goes down. So look up what are healthy things to eat for your gut, and there you'll be amazed.
Yeah, probiotics, prebiotics,
and how easy that is to keep going.
You can test for things if you're concerned. You'd be surprised that the majority of people test for heavy metals and have above normal levels of heavy metals in the blood.
And
you can
also,
test for mold.
Your lack of certain metals, magnesium, one of them actually.
Yeah, get your blood work done and test.
That you can be deficient, and having good levels of that can dramatically change your life.
Yeah, so those are things you can do. Test, get some blood work done, see what you're deficient in, and when they do blood work, they typically don't test for heavy metals or do mold tests. You have to ask your physician, because allopathic medicine doesn't routinely test for this. They just give you the medication for the symptoms. But a lot of ailments are caused by heavy metals in the blood, mold, in the blood, and other things. So you can ask for tests for these things. You can ask for an extensive panel to see what you're deficient in. Read the packaging on your foods. Look at the packaging. A lot of the packaging is toxic. So do our due diligence, and we can actually make healthy choices that matter.
Yeah. The packaging on the sliced cheese with the resealable It just drives me crazy. Sometimes I look at that cheese, and if it's not already open, I think I don't want to deal with it.
Well, you
And
think it's toxic, or it's just a pain in the butt to
it's
open?
toxic. It's
It's toxic to
emotionally
you
toxic.
emotionally.
Can't stand it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then trying to seal it back up, and it doesn't connect. And then
So yeah, be empowered, make choices in our lives, get the information. There's so much we can do to not just automatically, without conscious awareness, go through our lives and what we're putting in our bodies and surrounding our bodies with.
Yeah, and look at it also the fact that you should probably not eat one particular thing, and you keep a varied diet and try to stay as pure as possible with your diet. That can go a long way, because I think there, in reality, is really not going to be much escaping some of these things. The prevalence of glyphosate,
Glyphosate.
it's everywhere. So
If you can't say it, you probably shouldn't put it in your body.
yeah, I can't say it yet consistently.
All right.
Okay.
So yeah, let us know what you think, or any information you've found that maybe you'd like us to share. We're always looking at research, and admittedly, sometimes I read research and have information, and then I forget that I have that information. It's a lot to take in and a lot to hold.
Mm-hmm. It is, but don't get overwhelmed. Just try to be more attentive to what's going on with your labels.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Subscribe. It really helps us if you subscribe, because as we build subscribers and we can potentially monetize in that way, then we can afford to do more of this. We can afford to enhance our studio, and we'd love to be able to bring guests on and improve our technology, so we can bring some guests from the music industry and other industries as well, to just grow and enhance what we're able to share together when we hang out together like this.
That'd be fun.
Comments are great. Right? We're on X. In the description, you'll see our link to X. Go check us out there, where you'll get little details and pictures. I'm starting to post, I don't know if you noticed, I'm starting to post pictures of you with your guitar in hand, to show folks that, like I said, your mistress is always in your lap, even when you're doing other things. Yeah. So for the personal details, go to our X.
Check it out.
Profile. Yeah. Otherwise, see you next week.
Yeah, see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.